Breaking news. Newly released files reveal something the Caribbean was never meant to hear. Stability was treated as a threat. These documents don't warn about chaos. They warn about communities functioning too well. Officials wrote that when villages were stable, people resisted pressure. When food systems worked, wages lost leverage. When families supported each other, control weakened. This is the part most textbooks avoid. Follow island bloodlines to keep the history they tried to bury alive. The files describe stability as dangerous because stable communities didn't panic, didn't submit quickly, and didn't depend on permission, so policies were designed to interrupt balance. Land access was limited, local production was redirected, movement was restricted, and systems that worked were labeled informal or backward. Publicly, they claimed instability needed fixing. Privately, they admitted stability made domination expensive. Because people who are secure don't obey easily, don't accept exploitation, and don't trade dignity for survival. That's why disruption became routine, why crisis felt constant, why normal life was never allowed to settle. Once you see this, the pattern becomes obvious. The Caribbean wasn't unstable by nature. Stability was intentionally broken. So ask yourself, if stability was harmless, why did power work so hard to dismantle it? Be honest, did you ever learn this part? Drop your thoughts below. Nobody admits Caribbean dependency was used to discipline dissent. This wasn't aid, it was enforcement. When communities questioned wages, challenged land access, or organized for fairness, support quietly disappeared because dependence creates obedience. If food came from outside, resistance softened. If credit could be cut, voices lowered. If survival required approval, compliance followed. Here's the part most people never hear. Follow island bloodlines to keep the history they tried to bury alive. Records show assistance increased after obedience and vanished after defiance. Ports were delayed, permits, stalled loans, denied supplies, rerouted. Publicly, they called it responsibility. Privately, they described it as leverage. Communities that protested were labeled ungrateful. Leaders were framed as irresponsible, and dissent was punished without open force. That's how discipline worked. Quiet, bureaucratic, and deniable. When people complied, support, return. When they resisted, scarcity followed. This wasn't accidental, it was policy. And that design didn't disappear, it evolved today. Dependency still comes with conditions, funding still follows compliance, and dissent is still framed as instability. Once you see the pattern, the story changes. Jamaica didn't need an invasion to be brought back into line. It needed an election. In the 1970s, Prime Minister Michael Manley challenged U.S. dominance by nationalizing industries, expanding social programs, and aligning with the non-aligned movement in Cuba. That was enough to trigger foreign intervention. Quiet, deniable, and devastating. Follow for more. As Manley pushed for economic independence, Jamaica was flooded with destabilization. According to journalists, former intelligence officials, and declassified records, the CIA worked to undermine his government by supporting opposition forces, fueling political violence, and backing media campaigns that painted Manley as a communist threat. Weapons flowed into Kingston's poorest neighborhoods. Gangs became political tools. Communities were turned into battlefields. The violence peaked around the 1976 and 1980 elections, leaving hundreds dead. The message was clear: vote wrong and the country bleeds. When Manley lost power in 1980, Jamaica immediately reversed course, embracing IMF austerity, privatization, and U.S.-approved economic policy. Washington didn't need to land troops. The outcome was achieved. Jamaica wasn't unstable. It was destabilized. This is colonial manipulation without uniforms, where ballots replaced bullets and chaos replaced consent.
Did you know the US literally stole Haiti's gold? Like, walked into the bank and took it. In December 1914, 8 American soldiers entered the National Bank of Haiti and emptied all of its gold reserves. This wasn't random. It was the opening move in a full-blown US invasion that lasted 19 years. But why? Because National City Bank, now Citigroup, and Wall Street elites thought Haiti might default on a loan. Might. They were wrong, duh. Haiti was following the rules. But the bankers wanted their money guaranteed. So they went to the US government, and the Secretary of State at the time, Robert Lansing, justified the invasion by saying Haitians were devoid of political organization and needed to be saved from their own savagery. So apparently, their civilized solution was straight up robbery. Absolutely no excuse but greed and racism. For 19 long years, the US occupied Haiti. One general even brags that the country had become a wonderful place for banks to collect revenue. History doesn't just repeat, it evolves, and we need to know it to recognize it.
So we need to keep our relationship with Haiti on positive footing at all times, because Haiti is the closest independent black country to the United States. Don't forget that. Don't burn that bridge, because you might have to walk over it. In their constitution, that any African in the world, especially an enslaved African, if you can make it to Haiti, if you can get to Haiti, you will be considered a citizen and you will be respected and protected as a member of the Haitian people. The Haitian Revolution rolled out the red carpet for the American African brothers and sisters who were still enslaved. They did that for us 200 years ago, and we owe it to them to roll out the red carpet for us as well.
Let's talk about how Donald Trump is now worth $7.3 billion. So while the rest of us, everyday Americans, are literally struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, with all of our necessities spiking, healthcare, food, energy, housing. While we're struggling with that, the President of the United States is making billions of dollars off his presidency. And the orange guy is the first president to refuse to sever ties to any companies or financial interests that may pose the appearance of or a conflict of interest. Just to give you a few ways that he is enriching his and his family's pockets, the cost of membership at Mar-a-Lago Resort has now gone upwards of $1 million per person. In addition to that, when these corporate lobbyists and foreign delegations and donors come to America, they stay at his properties and they funnel all of that money back into the Trump organization. Another example, Amazon is spending $40 million to license a documentary on Melania Trump. She is expected to make at least $28 million. Or we could talk about how weeks before Trump's tour of the Middle East, his son Eric Trump raced across the region to secure property deals, including $5.5 billion for a Trump resort in Qatar. This deal was funded by firms connected to the Qatari and the Saudi royal families. And I'll also remind you that in September, he signed an executive order promising to defend Qatar, which they then in turn gifted him a $400 million Boeing plane.
Trump is taking $3 billion from the U.S. government, our money, and moving it into a bank account outside of the United States that he will personally control. According to PBS NewsHour, he's announced that the United States will be controlling all the Venezuelan oil for the foreseeable future, and he personally will manage the profits. This includes the oil that our military put their lives on the line to seize. The Appropriations Clause says that federal money cannot be spent or controlled outside of Congress. The money must be deposited into the Treasury, not into a slush fund for the president, and Congress gets to decide how it's spent. He is now openly stealing money from the U.S. government and its citizens. And unfortunately, it's Republicans that will have to put a stop to this, but they won't. They control the House and the Senate, and if they don't make moves to rein him in, he will use the U.S. government, even more so than he has already, as his own personal bank account.